Left finger up in the air, right hand like this. All right, now I want you to put your left finger into the palm of the person on your left side's hand. Put your left finger into the palm of the person on your left side's hand. All right? Now I'm going to count to 3. Lay it flat. I'm going to count to 3. Hold your hand wide open. No head starts. I'm going to count to 3. And when I say go, and not a second before I say the word go, I want you to pull your finger out of their hand and grab the finger that's in your hand. All right? It's called pull my finger. Right? Not that kind of pull my finger. I'm going to count to 3, and I'm going to say that G word. You do what I asked you to do. Pull your finger out, grab the finger in. All right? You ready? 1. Wait for it. 1, 2, 3. Wait for it. 1, 2, 3, go. All right, since we're dealing with right brain, let's try it the other way just one time. We'll do right finger, left hand. Right finger, left hand. Just switch it around. One last time. Right finger, left hand. Opposite. 1, 2, 3, go. Raise your hand. How many of you, when we were playing that game, or as I was doing the countdown or count up or whatever you call it, how many of you felt a little bit nervous playing that game? How many of you felt a little bit anxious, right? A little stressed out playing that game? How many of you felt a little awkward? Like, this is just weird for everyone involved, right? That silly little game demonstrates what so many of us, dare I say all of us, experience on a daily basis in our everyday lives. Fear, failure, pressure to perform. Fear, failure, pressure to perform. We experience it at work. We experience it at school. We experience it at home. We experience it with our family, with our friends. If you play a sport, if you're a performer, you feel and we experience constantly a fear, failure, pressure to perform. When you're on social media, you know, if you think about our activity on social media, how many times does it take you to get that picture right before you post it online, right? Fear, failure, pressure to perform. I remember when I was 8 years old, I was at my cousin's house. We were in the backyard playing. My older cousin, he was a few years older than me, him and his 2 friends. We were all 4 of us in the backyard playing, having a good time. I loved my cousin, worshipped him. He was the coolest guy. And so him and his friend, they had this huge tree in the backyard. Him and his friends decided they were going to go climb the tree. And so they go climbing up this tree. I want to follow them, but I'm smaller. I'm not as strong as those guys are. Right? They get about, 5,000 feet up in the air. When you're 8 years old, everything's like exaggerated. They get super high up in the tree. They're like, Javier, come on, climb up here. I'm like, I don't want to climb up. It's a big tree. And they're like, come on, get up here with us. And I'm like, no, it's not. And they start teasing me, started making fun of me, calling me scaredy cat or punk or whatever, calling me these names, teasing me. And I immediately was overwhelmed with this fear, failure, and pressure to perform. And so I started to climb the tree. I got about halfway where they were, and I was cool. I was good where I was standing. I didn't want to go any further. But they're like, no, Javier, you got to keep climbing, keep climbing. I'm like, I'm cool right here. And they're like, no, come on, keep climbing. So fear of failure, pressure to perform, pressure to impress these guys. I start climbing. I took a step off a branch. The branch broke. I dove about 30 or 40 feet, hit the ground, broke both my arms at the same time. Had bones sticking out. It was crazy. I'm screaming. I look like a drunk velociraptor or something. I'm just like, ah! All right? They get down the tree as fast as they can. All they can do at that moment is try and get me to stop crying. That's all they could think about. And in the process of that, they gave me some of the dumbest advice I'd ever heard in my entire life. One of his friends was like, Javier, if you don't stop crying, the doctors are going to cut your arms off. Like, that's what I needed to hear in that moment, right? So I'm going like, I'm trying to hold it in like, right? I sound like a balloon letting the air out, right? Then my cousin gave me some advice that was even dumber than that. He said, Javier, just don't look at him. Like, that's the solution right there. I'm just like, ah! Oh, okay. Yeah, this is much better. Okay. I'll just never look at my arms ever in life ever again. We don't even have to go to the doctor, right? 3 days before my 3rd grade year of school started. That happened on a Friday. School was to start that Monday. I remember hearing the doctor say I was going to have to wear these casts for the next 6 to 8 weeks. I thought that meant I didn't have to go to school for another 6 to 8 weeks, right? But nope, first day of school, I showed up with the 2 casts on my arms looking, well, a lot like that guy. You're like, oh, there's a lot of sad things about that picture besides the cast, right? The shirt, the haircut, the shoes, whatever. Fear of failure, pressure to perform. About 2 years ago, I met with a group of 20 young people from across the state of Ohio through the Ohio Youth-Led Prevention Network. And they were coming together and having conversations about the stress, anxiety, the fear of failure, the pressure to perform that them, their classmates, their friends, their siblings were experiencing at high levels on a daily basis. And they wanted to come up with solutions. How do we help ourselves so that we can help our friends, our classmates, our siblings deal with the extreme fear of failure and pressure to perform that they experience on a daily basis? And they said, you know, we're struggling. We're struggling with coming up with solutions on how to cope and how to even thrive in the midst of our circumstances and situations. And we see too many of our friends and our classmates and our siblings making poor decisions when it comes to that. Poor, unhealthy choices when it comes to nutrition, unhealthy choices when it comes to violence, unhealthy choices when it comes to substance abuse, unhealthy choices when it comes to self-harm or even considering or completing suicides. Fear of failure, pressure to perform. And it was interesting having this conversation with these 20 young people who wanted to see things done new, different, and better than they'd ever been done before. And so they started a movement called the Be Present Ohio campaign. Being present for ourselves so that we can be present for our friends, our classmates, and our family members, right? Why did they call it Be Present? Think about how your mind works. Most of the time, our minds are spent in 3 different areas. What has happened in the past, what might happen in the future, or what could be happening somewhere else. Think about what you've thought about since you got to this event today. Most likely you thought about something that happened before you got here, or yesterday, or last night, or last week. Or you've thought about what's going to happen after you leave here, or what's going to happen tomorrow, or what's going to happen next week or next year. Or you've thought about what's going on somewhere else. Think about going back to social media and cell phones. You know, young people use this term called FOMO, fear of missing out. That's why we spend so much time on social media, because we're afraid we're missing out on something somewhere, something that's going on somewhere else. Where's my boyfriend at? Where's my girlfriend at? Where's my brother, my sister? Where are my friends at? What are they doing? Fear of missing out. What has happened in the past, what might happen in the future, or what could be happening somewhere else. This compounds that fear of failure and pressure to perform. And so I spent, around that time, I had spent some time at a private school. And talking to the administration before I got there, they said, the principal shared with me that they had gotten rid of the class rankings for their seniors. And he said, a lot of schools are starting to do that. Let me explain to you why we got rid of our class rankings. He said, our highest ranking senior has a 4.5 GPA. Our lowest ranking senior has a 4.2. It makes no sense for us to rank these students from highest to lowest, top to bottom. He said, however, the levels of stress, anxiety, depression, fear of failure, pressure to perform that our seniors are experiencing is off the charts. They're abusing substances, they're abusing prescription pills, they're making unhealthy choices as a way to cope with this fear of failure and pressure to perform. I had a young man come up to me halfway through the week, varsity basketball player, 4-point-something on that spectrum, shaking and on the verge of tears. He said, I don't know how to tell my parents that I don't want to go to Harvard Law. I want to be an elementary school teacher. And I'm scared to death to tell them what my passion is, right? Fear, failure, pressure to perform. And so going back to the Be Present campaign, that was a campaign started by young people for young people just like that. For young people that are trying to figure out how to cope and even how to thrive in the midst of their circumstances. Because maybe we can't change the circumstances. What we can change is how we respond to circumstances. And that's what the Be Present campaign is all about, teaching young people how to respond to the circumstances they find themselves in. and how to even thrive in the midst of them. Dr. Joseph A. White calls it finding strength in the broken places. And what these young people were passionate about in terms of starting this campaign in the state of Ohio really resonated with me. Because I had recently been a part of a national research project where my company, along with some other agencies and organizations, we went to 5 different cities across the country: Chicago, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Oakland, California, and Richmond, California. And we worked with about 2,000 young people that experience high levels of trauma, high levels of violence, high levels of crime in their communities, in their homes, on a daily basis. Young people that show up to school in a diagnosable state of shock that oftentimes goes misdiagnosed or undiagnosed. Young people that are navigating gang territory just to get to school or get home from school. They're experiencing high levels of trauma on a daily basis. And among those 2,000 young people, we actually were able to identify about 15% of them that were thriving in the midst of their circumstances. About 15% of them that had found strength in the broken places. And so then the next step was to figure out what they had and that other young people didn't have, and could it be replicated. And what we found was that they had a significant connection to 4 things: somewhere, somehow, something, and someone. Somewhere is an optimistic outlook on life. They had hope. A young person with hope, a young person that believes they have something to look forward to in life, is more likely to make better choices because they have a track, they have somewhere they're trying to go, somewhere they're trying to get to. When a young person loses hope, why bother? We recognize the significance of our choices when we recognize the significance of ourselves and the significance of others. So having an optimistic outlook on life. Somewhere, somehow is a plan for how you're going to get to that place you're trying to get to. I'm not satisfied with where I'm at. I have somewhere better I'm trying to go, and I'm coming up with a plan or a strategy on how to get there. Something is a connection to a higher power, a higher purpose, or a higher calling. Connection to something bigger than yourself. And then that last one, which I would say is the most important one, is someone. Every single one of those 15% of those 2,000 young people had a significant connection to a, hear this, non-parental, non-judgmental, caring adult. A non-parental, non-judgmental, caring adult who could help them discover their somewhere, who could help them determine what their somehow was, help them create their plan, help them learn and understand how to navigate systems, and help them connect with their higher power, higher purpose, or higher calling. Somewhere, somehow, something, and someone. And so we figured out we could actually frame that and then teach it to young people across the state of Ohio through the Be Present campaign. And that's what it's about: creating future-minded young people that are making better choices for themselves, that are taking care of their own mental health and wellness right now, and are being present for themselves right now so that they can be present for their friends, their classmates, and our community. And for me, it's just exciting to be a witness to the amazing things that they do. I'm convinced that if there's going to be a change for the better in our world, our country, our communities, and our schools, and in the lives of our young people, it's not going to happen just because of what politicians are doing and parents and preachers and teachers are doing. It's happening because of what young people are doing. Young people are on the forefront of change. Change isn't happening to them, it's happening through them. And as adults working with young people, as adults who are connected to young people and want to see them thrive and find strength in the broken places, I'm telling you what, it's, like I said, a blessing to be a witness to the amazing things that they're doing right now. Thank you so much.